After an excellent premiere episode, Stargirl had a big job following it up. I don't think it was quite as good as the first episode, but again, a hard act to top. This second episode was still great, however, as we saw Courtney fully become Stargirl and S.T.R.I.P.E. make his first full appearance. Hello everyone, I'm DanTheMan. The second episode started off where the last left off, as Courtney comes face to face with Pat in his Stripe suit. And I could not help but geek out when Courtney climbed onto Stripe's back as the duo flew off. Her riding Stripe like that was a somewhat classic pose with these two, especially before Courtney got the staff and could fly on her own. So even if she wasn't in costume, it was great to see that come to life. The robot in general looked great, and I was especially impressed with the scene of Pat practicing with it in the field. It's a lot easier to make something like that look good in night shots than in the day, but Stripe really looks great, both in the day and night on this show. I have my doubts they can pull him off on a TV budget, even a bigger one like this clearly has, but they've done it, and that is no small feat. The scene with Pat and Courtney talking after escaping Brainwave brought up something I was hesitant to address the last episode, because it involved referencing the comics in a way that could potentially lead to some big spoilers. But I do feel I should talk about it, so anyone who does not want the potential spoilers can go to the timecode listed here to skip past them. Okay, when Courtney and Pat talked in the garage, and several other times in the episode, the idea was teased that Sylvester Pemberton, aka Starman, might be Courtney's father. It should be noted that in the comics, Sylvester, or the Star-Spangled Kid, or Skyman, as he's known in the comics, is not Courtney's father, and as far as I remember, it was never teased or hinted at that he might be. Sam Curtis, the name Courtney gave Pat when he asked her father's name last episode, was the name of Courtney's father in the comics, but he was not an alias for Sylvester, but a different character entirely. In the comics, her father was a con man and low-level criminal who was even less involved in Courtney's life than this one, since he apparently saw her every year for her first 4 years, which is more times than her father saw her in the comics up till this point. Since the New 52 and Rebirth, they've done some tweaking in continuity, implying he was the bigger criminal than he was originally portrayed as, but at least as far as I can recall, no real specifics were given for that. He, however, most definitely was not a hero, much less Starman. Now again, they have changed things in the TV shows from the comics, so it's not possible that in the show, Starman will be her father. But given the comics, and the fact that the names Sam Curtis and his being an absentee father are consistent with the comics, I have a feeling Courtney is being set up for a disappointment. It actually makes me sad whenever she talks about Starman being her father, because I don't believe he will be, and I have a feeling it's going to be heartbreaking when she finds out the truth about him. Also this episode, we got introduced more properly to some of the other members of the Injustice Society, most notably Wizard and Gambler, and I can't wait to see what Courtney thinks of those unoriginal names, as well as another Solomon Grundy tease and more of Icicle. I want to say that I love how the Injustice Society members have been handled on this show. Their source material is not the easiest characters to take seriously, or really see as any kind of a threat. Golden Age villains in a lot of cases just come off hokey by today's standards, but the show's done a great job at tweaking them to where I truly buy them as both menacing villains and legit threats to Courtney and Pat. Icicle and Brainwave have gotten the best of it, but even Wizard and Gambler, with what little we saw of them, feel like people are going to be legit threats to our heroes in the future. I don't want to give too much away, but as the picture we saw of the Injustice Society showed, there are more to come, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what this show does with the other members. Also, don't know if this is truly on the villains front, but we got to see more of Henry King Jr., Brainwave's son. In the comics, Henry has his father's powers also, which I think was being hinted with Brainwave asking Henry what he was thinking. He seemed to clearly be trying to see if Henry had his powers. And in the comics, Henry King Jr. eventually went on to have a very tragic history and become both a hero and a villain. I don't know how much, if any of that, is going to be shown on this show, much less this season, but I'm definitely interested to see how much of that is adapted. In the comics, he was one of the more complex of the characters seen on this show so far, so there's a lot of ways that they could go with him. Brainwave Jr. has been mostly absent from the comics since the 90s, only making sporadic appearances as best, but it'll be interesting to see if this show might give new life to the character. We also got a showdown with Brainwave, and I gotta say, I hope he's not gone for this season and he does come back. When I heard Brainwave would be on this show initially, I actually rolled my eyes. I honestly never liked Brainwave in the comics, but this version we get here may be one of the best villains in a DC show in quite some time. I honestly am wondering if it was wise to make him Stargirl's first enemy, because he'll be a hard act to top. And Brainwave's fight with the S.T.R.I.P.E suit and Stargirl was also a highlight of the episode. We both got to see S.T.R.I.P.E really kick loose, and we got a full-on glimpse of Stargirl's suit for the first time. I also loved her calling Pat her sidekick and Pat's reaction. It's a bit different than in the comics. In the comics, Courtney let everyone think S.T.R.I.P.E was a robot's sidekick, mostly because she enjoyed how much it annoyed him, whereas Pat seems to be almost embracing the idea of being her sidekick by the end of the episode. But in the comics, part of Pat's character is that he's very humble and willing to be the man behind the man, or woman in this case. So it works. I also love the scene between Courtney and Pat in the end. It looks like Pat gained Courtney's respect, and they'll be more of a team going forward. This is good for Courtney's character, as she comes off as something of a brat at times with her behavior towards Pat. She did that in the comics too. In fact, she was a little bit more bratty in the comics early on. But honestly, part of what I liked about the character is moments like that, because while Stargirl is very much a hero, she's not perfect, and that's what humanized her. Pat also briefly mentioned to Courtney how Starman didn't build the cosmic staff. It was built by a man named Ted Knight. In the comics, it was Ted Knight who created the staff and took on the name Starman, and eventually passed the mantle on to his son, who gave Courtney the staff. They're obviously doing it differently, but I do like, and I think a lot of other fans will like, that Ted Knight apparently will have some kind of presence in the show. That could just be an Easter egg and we'll never hear about that again, but I have a hard time they would have dropped that without planning to follow it up at some point, so I have a feeling we will see Ted Knight sooner or later, maybe in a flashback, and I am interested to see what they do with him, especially since apparently in this world, he wasn't Starman. I also feel I should know Courtney's idea for what the acronym for STRIPE would stand for was, as some might guess, a bit different from what it was in the comics. In the comics, STRIPE stood for Special Tactics Robotic Integrated Power Enhancer, not Subatomic Tactical Robot Internet Pat Enhancer. But you know what? That's hilarious, and I don't even care if they end up keeping it as that. That was some good stuff right there. We finished the episode getting a hint of what's to come as Icicle returns to Blue Valley and vows to kill Stargirl. Clearly, while the Injustice Society will be the villains of the show, Icicle is obviously the true big bad. So in short, this episode was a great follow-up to last episode. It set everything in place, and I cannot wait to see where we go next. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. And don't forget to check out my latest review of DC Universe's other currently ongoing TV series, Harley Quinn. I'm Dan the Man, and I'll see you next time.